Okay, hi. Back at BA 121A, Developing Your Business Plan. This is Module 2A. We're going to talk about your product and your service, the section that talks in depth as to what you're trying to sell. Here's a list. So you can see last lessons we've talked about the executive summary very briefly, and then who's going to run your management team. And here we are talking about products and services. And then we talk about market analysis and the rest in later lessons. Okay, so these questions come from the last lecture, the top 10 questions that a business plan should answer. What's the need that your business exists? What hole is there out there that you feel needs to be filled? What hole is out there that your product is going to satisfy, and how is your product going to satisfy that niche? How is it going? How is your company and how is your product or service going to differentiate itself from the others? Those are some really basic questions, but they fall into this section of your product or your service, and you want to make sure that you make the reader really visualize this section, because this is the meat and potatoes section of your business plan. This is really the area that's going to tell them the kind of business that you're getting into. It's going to make them excited to read more. So you really want to make sure that you've got this thorough. You want an in-depth description of the product or services. You want to really emphasize the benefits to the customer. And what makes it so exciting. There's also an opportunity here to talk about relevant copyright, patent, or trade secret ideas, and any research or development activities that you have that may be leading to new products and services. So in this section, it's not just about what the existing product is, but what the future of the development of the product is as well. When we talk about what a consumer gets out of a product or a service, the benefit it gets out of a product or a service, we're talking about the value that they get. We're talking about the utility that they get. Consumers purchase products for a variety of reasons. They fall into these 5 major categories, but we need to get something out of that product. We need to have a reason to buy it. For the caffeine, for the time saving, for the form in that I like that shirt fits me better, or I like that hat, or it has the right brand on it. So that's under ownership and possession. I like owning Hondas or Mercedes or whatever that is. That that's the value or the reason why we are purchasing something. So when you're starting to talk in your business plan about the benefits that a consumer will get out of your product or service, you can talk in these kinds of forms. The satisfaction that we get comes from these 5 areas, also known as value. So you can talk in these ways in your business plan. Once you've thoroughly told the reader about your product or your service and answered the questions as to what holes you're going to fill and what niche you're going to fill and what kind of product you are, and you've excited the reader about it all, you've talked about the consumer benefits and the consumer value that they'll get out of it. Now you need to tell them how you're going to produce it. Some of the questions you might want to answer, and these are just some very basic questions, of course, are the how exactly are you going to produce the product? Where are you going to produce it? Again, the how needs to be pretty thorough. Do you need to get a bunch of machinery to do it? Are you doing it by hand? Do you have the expertise? Do you have to hire people to do it? All of this kind of thing are you going to import something? Are you going to export something? Is there something that's going to be made overseas that you're bringing in? You really need to bring all of those answers together here. And what what is it that you're producing? How are you going to produce it? Where are you going to produce it? And is there any kind of inventory that you're going to need to have? Are there parts of the product that you need to have? Or are you going to be looking at just-in-time inventory where your suppliers bring stuff in just as you're going to be producing it? You need to start answering these kinds of questions. And then not more importantly, but just as importantly, what are the costs of developing this product? How much is it going to cost to get this thing off the ground? How much does it cost to make one widget? And then the next section that we talk about is the pricing, but in this production section, as I said, this is really just some very basic questions, but you need to be pretty thorough in this process, because this is how you're going to figure out the cost of doing business. So when you get further down into the financial section, how you're going to produce this product will give you some of the answers to the cost of producing the product. So, of course, you can't necessarily price a product without knowing how much it's going to cost to make. That's called the cost of goods or cost of service. How much is the labor going to be? What are the materials? What are the manufacturing costs? How much are you going to mark it up? This kind of thing, you need to start doing some market analysis, and that's the next section of the business plan. But this particular area, so you can see how it's all weaving together. But in this area, this is still in the product and service section, that you're going to talk about your pricing structures and how you think you might price your product or your service. Are there going to be discounts? Are there going to be volume discounts or good customer discounts, that sort of thing. In this section, you also want to talk about who your competitors are. You may be differentiating yourself from those competitors, but you need to talk about the competitors and what they sell their products at. You're not going to be able to know what the costs of goods are for those products unless it's a public company and they have to publish their financial reports, and in which case you would have a general idea of the cost of goods, but you can see what the competitors' actually prices are to the public, and make sure that you put that in there so that your reader knows that you've been pretty thorough about this. You also want to see what your markup strategy is. Are you just going to add 10%? You're going to add 25%? Are you going to do cost plus something? Are you going to price it to a point as early adopters who will spend more money on some kind of technology? You need to make sure that your reader understands what that strategy of pricing is. Okay, that's a down and dirty description of the product and services. Again, this is kind of a nuts and bolts, meats and potatoes section, so you want to make sure that you get this one really thorough and really exciting for your reader, because this is where they're going to be sold on your idea. There are a couple links in this section, so check them out. There's actually a radio story about the production and design of toothbrushes and why they went in one direction and another. It's an interesting story. Might give you some ideas onto what other business owners and developers have had to go through. See you next time.